Hey, welcome to A Wealthy Hairstylist, and today I'm going to show you guys a little behind the scenes of a client's install, from her full color to installing her hair extensions to how my assistant and I communicate the process in the break room. So as you can see, I'm sectioning out my client into quadrants for my assistant and I to color her. Her goal is to be as bright, cool blonde as possible. But as you can see, she is like a level 5, and highlighting is going to be a process, and we want to make a big impact with her foiling. So I'm getting clear on my sections and getting everything sectioned out for my assistant and I to get started on our big color project. I'm so excited for you guys to follow along. And now here's a little snippet of what we talk about in the break room.
Okay, so let's start with the client. So we prepped with the K18. We're gonna do a full weave. And in the past, okay, so we were doing 20 volume when we did partial. However, for full weave, we did 10 and 20 volume for back and 20 volume for top. So we'll do the same. So back, bleach and 10 and 20 volume. Top of her head, we'll have bleach and 20 volume. And do you want to help me foil, or do you want to get color afterwards? Yeah, practice some foiling. Okay, so we really thin slices. The client wants like an all over, like big impact, so we're doing thin baby slices to create more coverage and color on our hair. So thin slices. Wefts. Okay, so we're gonna have 2 rows of 18-inch new hair day. Yay! Okay, so bottom row, we are having 2 blonde zeros and 2 bondies. Okay, so blonde zero is like a blonde, like bright icy blonde, and bondi is a rooted dimensional icy blonde. So it still has the panels of the bright blonde and then panels of darker, like a level 6 cool brunette. It's great. I feel having contrast in a client's hair not only makes the blonde stand out, but it will blend well with her hair because naturally she's very dark at her roots. Okay, and then her top, we're going to plan on 3 blonde zeros and 2 bondies. Weft color, so the root on the bondies are great. So we're going to root only blonde zero. We're going to wash first. And then on damp hair, let's root, just to go straight 5.
Doing equal parts 7 and 5.
To neutralize. I just feel the blonde zeros, like the first color process is,
And it's gonna fade.
I feel like blonde zeros need like two coloring sessions. And naturally she's a 5. So even if we do a straight 5, I feel like the first application will probably be like a 6.
Okay.
So maybe let's do, yeah, I think let's go 5. Yeah. So we're gonna root 5 in. And then we're going to tone the wefts. So new wefts have like a very bright reflective hue that doesn't really seem natural, so we want to soften them down. So we're just going to do a soft gloss of 9B. And then once we get her washed, the client will root. Oh, do we not root tap her? Oh, we don't. Oh, she doesn't like the root tap, huh? I'm looking at her past history, guys. So we keep like thorough notes of everything, so that way you have great parts and you can't think about what you've done in the past or the history of the client or what they liked and didn't like. Having thorough notes is key to having consistency with your clientele. So for her, we actually didn't do root tap at the bowl. She doesn't like a root smudge. She likes the brightness all the way to the root. So root tap, none. And then toner, we will determine once we get her washed. But in the past, we've been doing, okay, so last time we did 9B, 10P, and a cap of 9B. Okay, we'll kind of get back on that once we get our shampoo. Alrighty, let's get mixing.
When formulating for my bleach, I like to write on all my bowls so my assistant and I are clear what formulas are for the top and for the back of the head. As you can see, I did a full head of baby thin slices, and I even tipped out her ends to help brighten up what she currently has going on. Now we let her process. These are the wefts before we pre-rooted and toned them. And we decided to root the Blonde Zeros with shades 5N with a small cap of 5G, and they processed for 20 minutes. The root smudge was perfect, and now we're toning with shades 9V. Since my client wanted an all-over bright blonde, we are not doing a root tap. I am just toning her roots first with shades 9V, 9P, and a cap of 9B. And as you can see, I do her roots first, and then I pull through her mid to her ends. The toning process usually lasts around 5 to 7 minutes. I say you can wash it out once you kind of achieve the color that you are wanting. I still wanted to keep her as bright as possible, so I did not want to overly tone her and have her get too ashy and too cool, because that can also dull the brightness of her blonde color that she has been wanting to achieve. As the toner is processing, my assistant and I start brushing her out using the Tangle Teaser brush. I don't know if you guys have got your hands on one of these yet, but I'm actually learning to love it. And I think it works really well on wet hair, especially finer hair, and you're trying to tangle out anything that's pre-teased or doing any bowl work. We found it was a great way to kind of work through the hair. So as you can see here, we're just kind of closely keeping an eye on those fresh highlights. I definitely want to cool them down, but not overly tone them. And now on to the extension install. So my client is getting 2 new rows of 18-inch extensions, and I'm doing a hidden bead method. And as you can see, I'm definitely utilizing my assistant. This is a great way for her to have hands-on experience and to see the whole process of extension install. But what we decided to do for her bottom row is I'm using the 2-dimensional pieces to be on her corners, and the 2 Blonde Zero wefts are going to be sandwiched in the middle. And a lot of hand-tied wefts come 10 to 12 inches in diameter, I guess you could say. So not the length of 18, but how far it can wrap around the head. And when installing any hidden bead method, too much bulkiness or overlapping of wefts, especially close to your corners, can cause it to be too heavy. So a lot of my extension installs, I do cut the wefts to fit the head. So that's what you can see here. Since it is a hand-tied weft, I do have to use a little bit of super glue on the corner, and I have a special clamp that's only designated for glue to clamp down and make sure that corner is sealed once it is glued. And once that is dry, then I lay it onto my client's hair. So I don't know about you, but I am a prong girl. I probably use way too many prongs during my installs, but I'm kind of a little bit of a freak when it comes to making sure everything is secure, it's steady, and my wefts don't move at all while I'm stitching. The biggest pain in the butt is when you stitch and then you flip under the weft to find another weft just hanging that you missed throughout the process. So I use extra prongs just to make sure everything is held securely. And now onto the top. So I am going to have 5 wefts total, 3 Blonde Zeros and 2-dimensional. The 2 blondes will be framing her face. And like all hand-tied wefts, I do cut them to blend into my client's hair. So as you can see here, I am cutting it so it fits properly. But there's one thing that I love to do is to make this little ledge with the hand-tied wefts. So as you can see here, I will cut the weft a little bit more in and leave the root of the weft a little bit longer and make sure that is really glued well. I feel if you only cut the weft and the hair is so close to the root of where the stitching is, it can cause shedding quicker. So I cut a few strands away, so I leave a lip of the weft exposed with no hair. So it's kind of extra security when you are custom cutting. Ooh, her color placement is looking so good. So we had some leftover Blonde Zero Wefts from her bottom row since the section is so small. So I did take some of those extra blonde pieces and added them to her corners. So she has some extra fullness and brighter pop around her face. And now the fun stitching has begun. I normally tend to go sometimes higher placement or angled for my clients, but for her, she prefers more of a lower placement because she does style a lot with the top part of her hair. And now on to the blending. I absolutely love cutting extensions. I feel a lot of people tend to get a little scared with cutting extensions because they obviously don't want to remove what they just put in, but movement is key to a successful install. You have to etch in layers, you have to do some movement, face framing layers, especially like my client, she has shorter pieces that frame around her face. And now onto the fun curling part. My assistant and I used a 1-inch Bio-Ionic extra long barrel. I feel the 1-inch gives this beautiful mermaid wave, is what I like to call it. It's still soft, but it has a smaller bend that I could go higher up with the hair. And I feel it blends beautifully for short hair into the longer extensions. My go-to finisher is the Mr. Smith Dry Texture Spray. Not only does it smell amazing, but it's not tacky, it's not sticky. I get the most beautiful, fluffy second day look. And here's my client's after. So she has 2 rows of 18-inch hand-tied wefts, and we made her as blonde as we could get her.